Hello and welcome to an unscheduled episode 3 of my NOTCAST. It is Monday and it's about 2 o'clock. Well, it was 2 o'clock. It's now about 3 o'clock at 3:30 in the afternoon. And I was expecting to be at work today. But thanks to Virgin Media, they switched all the broadband off without telling anybody until at least 4 o'clock. And I can't do the work which I'd got planned this afternoon and which I have to do. Instead, today we're going to talk about something else, which I'm going to present to you now, which is these. So the David Bowie box sets. There is another video on the internet where somebody talks about how you can identify a counterfeit box set, but it is in Italian, it is 6 minutes long, and my Italian is terrible. In fact, it's non-existent, because like most British people, we're quite arrogant and we haven't learned to speak other languages. So we're very glad that other countries are perhaps less arrogant and more fluent in English, which is perhaps one of the most difficult languages that there is. Now, if I were king, which perhaps could be a separate series, I would talk about what I would change about the world and about reality. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about how you can identify a counterfeit David Bowie CD box set. I'm well aware this is extremely niche. Many of you will have fallen asleep by the time I open the first box set, so I better get cracking, really. So here it is. So, first and foremost, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of these box sets and why counterfeit versions of them exist. Primarily, it's to do with money and the cost of international trade. When I was much younger, in the 80s, for example, one of the things I would do would be to buy albums, and you could buy cheap albums which were imported from other countries and had cutouts through the barcodes so that they couldn't be sold in that country and barcoded. Now, thanks to the EU, which is not necessarily a bad thing, that trade has died down and the prices for items are set roughly the same across all the countries. So illegally importing various Human League albums and selling them for half the price in a record shop that doesn't count towards the chart figures no longer happens if anybody still buys any albums by anybody. So first and foremost, I'm going to point out the 4 box sets here. Ideally, I would have had a shelf, but I don't. So what I want you to look at very closely is the height of the boxes. One of these boxes is not like the others. This box here, Who Can I Be Now, is substantially smaller than the others. It is approximately 1 millimeter less in height. When you stack all of these up together against each other, all the other box sets, the official versions, are the same height. These ones aren't. However, I'm going to explain how I managed to buy these box sets and what to look out for. Now, the average retail price of one of these box sets, the CD edition, when it was announced, was somewhere in the region of £140. The vinyl edition was somewhere in the region of £205 or so, which for the contents means that you're buying an awful lot of stuff you already have, probably for the 5th time, at a highly inflated price. Just to explain very quickly, CDs were originally issued in 1983, mostly on RCA records. They were reissued in 1990 on Ryko disc with bonus tracks. They were reissued in a remastered form in 1999. And if you take into account also the original vinyl releases of these albums, this box set will have been the 5th time that these albums have been made available for purchase in new and fancy editions. And frankly, David Bowie doesn't need the money. At the time that this was released, this was the first box set, which came out in 2015. David Bowie had apparently, and I presume they wouldn't have released anything without his consent, will have signed off and designed the contents of these box sets and the themes of them. So they are, as far as I'm concerned, largely faithful to his original intentions. However, now that David Bowie has died and the estate has made quite a lot of money out of releasing things that they weren't previously allowed to do so, I was prepared to take a risk and to order this box set and the other ones for about $29.99 from China on a well-known auction website, which I am prevented from naming for legal reasons. And this auction website have now prevented sale of these box sets. But if you are offered David Bowie box sets and you are unsure about whether they're legitimate and official releases pressed by EMI, or whether they are counterfeit sets that are pressed in China with slightly different details, I'm going to give you a guide through what to look for. This is the first disc, well, more correctly, the first box set. It is 5 years. The construction of it is fairly sturdy. It feels like an official set. When you take the inner box out, it feels like it's been vacuum packed. It's quite snug inside there. And we're going to look at the discs. So, although I'm not sure whether you can see this, the discs here are generally mostly faithful, but there are a few telltale signs to look out for. First and foremost, they generally will have been assembled quite roughly, quite quickly. The exact sizes and dimensions of all of them will not necessarily fully line up. There might be a gap, maybe a millimeter, maybe half a millimeter, so that they do not fit all snug and sound and same inside the box. The second one to look out for is the printing quality. So we're going to take the first, well, not the first David Bowie album, but Space Oddity, presented here in gatefold form. The first thing to look out for, if you can, is the discs themselves. So we will have reproduction paper inner sleeves, and we will also have inside there dust protectors. These will probably be quite crinkled if they're on the counterfeit sets, because they have been assembled quite hastily and not necessarily manufactured completely and exactly to specifications of the originals. Now, if you look carefully at this disc here, you look at the copyright along here, what you will see, although my phone camera is pretty poor, is that the text will be ever so slightly fuzzy. So what this means is that instead of typesetting the counterfeit version of the CD separately, they have scanned at a very high resolution this disc and then printed that scan onto the disc here. So for example, although you can make it out if you look at it very, very closely, the text is nowhere near as clearly defined as it is on the official legitimate discs. The second major giveaway is this here, although if I do this, effectively you just get to see a mirror image of my entire huge collection of CDs and dead media. That is a silver disc. The David Bowie box set. The official versions are gold discs. So there you are, you have been that's one of the things to look out for. Now, one of the other things to look out for is actually when it comes to the quality of the print on the covers and sleeves themselves. I'm going to take this version here, Space Oddity. Again, you may not necessarily be able to notice this if you look very, very closely there. I have no idea if the focus is working correctly. It is nowhere near as clearly defined as the official releases. The text is slightly fuzzy when you look at it at a very, very high resolution. It doesn't necessarily look, it isn't fully legible. Another dead giveaway inside of the gatefold here. Again, if you try to read that, it's very, very fuzzy indeed, primarily because the text is very small. And the resolution of the scan is nowhere near as good as actually having been typeset itself. So for example, this notice here, extremely small. This stereo record can be played on mono reproduction, providing you can't read it. It's illegible. I think even Superman with his glasses off could see it. I'm possibly going to give away my secret identity now, but let's find out. No, can't read it. No, it's not even Superman can read it with his glasses off. So the text is very fuzzy. It's very, very small. It's to all intents and purposes practically illegible. So those are some of the main things to look for. You do have to, if you can, get inside the box and have a look at them, but these should give you the warning signs around those. One of the other things to look out for, especially on the back here, they've reproduced the hype sleeve, is again to look at the text on there. If it looks slightly fuzzy, not clearly defined, it's a scan of the original. It's not a reproduction of the original. What I will say though is that these box sets are generally pretty sexy, as much as one can call a box set sexy. But if you look at these here, what you'll see, they've been crushed, they've been bent. The sleeves just aren't quite precise. They don't quite have the same level of detail and attention and care. Again, you'll see, even though this one here, The Man Who Sold the World, in the dress cover, does contain the effect of texturing. It's on the original vinyl release. Again, you look at the back of it, it's the text here, you can't read it. And again, giving away my secret identity, illegible. I have no idea what it says on there. It's a good thing I've got a vinyl copy which I can actually read. We've got here, for example, the copyright notice up here about stereo reproduction. It's not clearly defined, it's not really legible. You could probably work it out what it was, especially if you were on a crime show. Let's think CSI Las Vegas, where if you were looking at some ancient TV footage from 2001 that was shot on CCTV, probably at 240 lines resolution, you could just be able to zoom right in and be able to read the tattoo that's on the back of the neck of the murderer, even though if you zoomed in, actually it would just look like a splodge. No, that's not going to happen. Nobody's eyes are that good. Really annoys me about crime shows when they go, zoom in, go around the corner, look a bit closer. Oh, we can read his number plate. It's Joe Bloggs. He's a murderer. Okay, so here we are with Ziggy Stardust. Again, the text here is scanned. What you will see, inner sleeve. This may look familiar to those of you of a certain vintage. My copy doesn't have an inner sleeve. You look at the disc here. Some of them, the orange face discs, are retype set, so they're not scanned. These are the orange face discs are retype set on the counterfeits, but again, the discs are silver. So the original legitimate discs sold by the estate of David Bowie are gold. We also have the 2003 remix from the 30th anniversary edition, mixed by Ken Scott and Paul Hicks at Abbey Road Studios. Every one of these box sets contains a previously unreleased version of an album or a previously unreleased album, primarily as a way of making you buy the box sets and to buy things that you already have many times, but to buy them again one more time. And then later on, in a few years' time, they're going to issue them a final time as a special deluxe edition with previously unreleased copyright extension demos, bootlegs, and other songs which weren't good enough to release at the time and probably aren't good enough to listen to now. This is a little bit of a strange release. Contains the inner sleeve here, which actually is substantially smaller and has far less information in than the CD release from 2008. Counterfeit, again, if you try and read the text on the back here, you probably can't read it because of my phone. I can make out what that says, but I'm guessing, really. We have also here Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, the soundtrack, recorded on the 3rd of July 1973 in the evening when I was about 6 hours old. So I was born the same day that Ziggy Stardust died. I think the resemblance ends there. I am not the reincarnation of Ziggy Stardust. If I am doing a pathetic job of it, and I really need to give myself a serious talking to. But again, this album was recorded on the night that I was born. And if you look closely at it, the text, fuzzy again, text on the inside, fuzzy. It's very definitely a scam and not an official legitimate product. Here's Aladdin Sane, and what we will see actually inside these, and they've been very faithful actually in their reproduction of them, are things like lyric sheets, fan club booklets, all that type of stuff. Very nice, and probably a fair and accurate representation of what the album was like when it came out. But since I was 1 when I think this album was released, let's just quickly check. Well, I can't see the copyright date on there because again it's a scan, so I'm going to guess I was 1 when that came out. I have no memory of it at all. Pin-ups, one of the big giveaways that we've got on here. Firstly, if you look on the inner sleeve there on the back, there is a slight blue pen mark, which probably wasn't on the original record, certainly not on my copy of it. Second one, open this up, we're going to look inside the inner sleeve again, silver disc. But what we do have on here is track 5, which on this version of the disc has a spelling mistake on it, and therefore the song Everything's Alright is actually called Every R Thing's Alright. That's the track after, kind of justifies that. I can't explain why that typeset has happened, but clearly that's been retypeset. We've also got here the recall discs. You can debate whether these recall discs are any good or not. Some of them are reproduction of edits of promo 7-inches and things like that. Some of them they've gone back in and they've tried to recreate an edit from a 7-inch single, but done it with modern technology. And some of those are pretty sloppy, I'm told. Now, again, if you look closely at these, again, these are scans. These aren't actually official bits of typesetting, so dead giveaways. Here's the booklet. Again, look at the booklet. The photographs are not as sharp as you would normally expect. The text is not as sharp. In some cases, it's not legible. The details aren't perhaps correct. So if you try and read, the track listing here for that album, yes, you can read that. But again, once it gets smaller and smaller, it's not legible. And it's quite good. It's a reasonable reproduction. But it's not, the real deal. You can clearly tell that it isn't when you look at it. This would very much breach the trading standards rule about passing off. And passing off is where the rule is around a moron in a hurry. Now, when it comes to passing off, this can deal to multiple counterfeit goods, clothes, shoes, PCs, hair dryers, anything that's on that BBC programme called, I think, was it Fraud Britain or something like that. Bootleg Britain, maybe. If it's not called Bootleg Britain, it should be. Face it, I've got a great career behind me of naming television shows. Bootleg Britain is one of them. People should go and commission me. I'm considerably cheaper than other people. I will also do it in my spare time. So, what we will have is the rule about a moron in a hurry, and the moron in a hurry about counterfeit goods. This is a counterfeit box set, ladies and jelly spoons, because it is not quite as tall as the others, and there are a number of other giveaways that are inside this box. We're going to go through those. The theory of passing off is if a moron in a hurry could be confused and think it was a legitimate and real product, then it therefore breaches the copyright laws around counterfeit activity and passing off goods which are not legitimate as goods which are legitimate. This is not around selling guys that kind of look like Darth Vader in packets for films called Star Galaxy, where the character is called Evil Father and he's got a laser sword. It's not like that at all. This is about where somebody deliberately counterfeits a product with the aim of fooling a moron in a hurry that it is the real thing. These are not the real thing. If you see these sold from China for £30 or a price that doesn't look good, or more correctly, a price that looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. It isn't true. It's a lie. Now, I kind of knew this. I made a calculated risk when I bought these box sets at £30 each from China. I gave it about a 50-50 probability that these weren't legitimate, officially released David Bowie products. But on the other hand, if I'd have bought the officially released box sets, the vinyl editions of 4 of them would have cost me somewhere in the region of £800. The CD editions of these would have cost me somewhere in the region of £460. Buying the 4 of them at £30 each cost me £120. I'm of the opinion that I need that money more than a dead man. Now, I understand what you might think here. How dare I? But to be honest, look at the shelves behind me. I've spent plenty of money on music over the years. Trust me. This is not a lost sale. This is a sale that I was never going to make. Especially when you look at CD box sets. You can buy all of Leonard Cohen's CDs in a box set from a supermarket for something like £15, which works out at something like about £1.24 per disc. And then they're trying to sell the same number of CDs in a box with David Bowie's face on for something like 10 times the price. Realistically, people aren't going to pay that much. I know these are going to sell quite considerably. They're going to sell in a way that's profitable. Physical media is dying. They need to be aware of the fact that if you try and sell people a CD for the 5th time that they've already bought on vinyl, the original CD in 1983, the CD in 1990, the 1999 remaster with some of the tracks that are taken off of it, and then also maybe, let's say, there's a 30th anniversary version of Ziggy Stardust, which I've got. There's a 30th anniversary version of Station to Station, which I've got. There is a 30th anniversary version of everything. There's now a 50th anniversary version of Space Oddity. You kind of think, you've actually sold me this album more times than David Bowie has actually made legitimate albums in some cases. And I'm by no means the most obsessive of David Bowie people. I certainly haven't gone around and bought the 40th anniversary picture discs. I haven't gone and bought the multiple coloured vinyl variants and or anything like that. So I'm squaring the target market for these box sets, and these box sets, the official versions of them, are overpriced for what they are. And who can I be now? Well, firstly, box by box, you can very clearly see who can I be now is smaller. And as we know, guys, size is everything. Okay, so again, take the inner sleeve out. It feels nice. There's that vacuum feeling around it. But we'll go through the discs. So we have Diamond Dogs here in the gatefold edition. Again, the text is faded. It's not clear. It's a high resolution scan. The reproduction is not accurate. It's not really legible. Definitely the copyright notice on here, you can't read that. The inner sleeve here, and again it's the orange version, so it has been retypeset there. That's a lot sharper, but again, disc is silver, not gold, so bootleg, or perhaps one might say counterfeit. And we're going to go through some of the other ones in this. So this is David Live. There are 2 editions of David Live, one in the glossy sleeve, one in the matte sleeve. They're both taken from the same shows. The original version here is a reproduction of the 1974, I think, release of the live album. And the second version here was released in 2005, presumably sanctioned by David Bowie on the grounds that it would be able to extend the copyright. It comes in a matte sleeve. It has a slightly different running order. It removes the side A, side B, side C elements. But again, you open it, paper's quite thin, crinkly plastic sleeve, orange disc, but silver. So not officially sanctioned by the estate of Sir David Bowie. Was, as Adam the Buxton would say. Here's the Gouster, a previously unreleased album, which is pretty much the bait in this box set. If you want to own the Gouster, you can't buy it anywhere else. You can't buy it as a separate standalone release. You have to buy it in the box set. And frankly, that's what I'm buying the box set for, is the stuff I haven't already got. I don't need Young Americans 4 times on CD. I definitely don't need Station to Station 4 or 5 times on CD. I don't need the colour version of Station to Station, although frankly it's quite nice it's in the box set. But the Gouster is the big deal really in this set. It's a previously unreleased David Bowie album, but it isn't. It's an early configuration of Young Americans. And again, if you look at it very closely, it's slightly fuzzy text. You open it, again, it's a silver disc, got a lyric insert, got a nice little fan club thing, which wasn't in the original release because it was never originally released. It's got a couple of different songs on it, a couple of different mixes. It also replicates a couple of times the original mixes that were on the Young Americans album, which kind of makes you wonder what the point was. There's some remixes of Young Americans which are out, which you can buy, which at the very least you can download, which are very good. They should have used an alternate version on there. Here's Young Americans, again, matte sleeve, but you look at it quite closely, again, it's a scan, it's not the real thing, it's fuzzy, the text is barely legible. It'll fool you, and you won't care, but frankly, if I brought out the rest of my David Bowie collection, we would be here all afternoon, and that's a very long time, especially if I'm talking about it. So this is Station to Station, and here's the 2010 edition of Station to Station from the 30th or 34th anniversary box set. Again, if you want to take a close look, although you can't see it, the text is fuzzier here than it is there. The copyright information is fuzzier, it's smaller, it's not the real thing at all. Again, open it up, orange disc, so it's been retypeset, but it's a silver disc, not a gold one, so you have to look for that. Now, so this thing's sitting on a shelf, Mark. How am I able to tell whether it's the real thing or not? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because there's a dead giveaway as soon as you get to live at the Nassau Coliseum. Now, I don't know if you can read the side of that. It tells you that the artist name is Diamond Dogs, not David Bowie. And I'm just going to bring out the version of Live at Nassau that's on the 2010 edition. Bring up those 2 spines next to each other very clearly. One says David Bowie, assuming that my phone can focus correctly on some tiny and minuscule text. The other one says Diamond Dogs. And also, if you look at the disc here, so this is the original. I'm just going to point out this disc here. Now, why are you showing me a disc? Surely that's pretty boring. Well, it might be, but if we look carefully at the copyright notices on the discs, this is the unofficial version. You can see 3 white spots there. You can't see 3 white spots on here. Those white spots sit inside the holes inside letters such as P, D, B, and so on. Those are a dead giveaway around this set, that this is not officially sanctioned and pressed. It's been re-typeset and it's been remade. It's been scanned as well. Now, these scans which they're taking are from CD editions, they're not from vinyl editions. Hence there is a loss of resolution, there's a loss of sharpness, there's a loss of clarity around there. And again, look at that, silver discs. So, considering I've already bought station to station about 5 times, I don't really mind necessarily around this. David is loaded, or more correctly was, and he was worth more money than I'm certainly ever going to earn, unless my earning projections change dramatically in the next few years. We're also going to say that, of course, if you can and you can afford it, buy the official product, but don't be caught out by these. So here we have Recall 2. Again, text is fuzzy, disc is silver. If we opened up the inside sleeve, if you look at it closely, again, it's a scan. It's not the real thing. Booklet, same thing. Detail here. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I mean, you can read. There's some handwritten text from David's handwriting. But again, you get to the essay by Tony Visconti. I'm not expecting you to be able to read that. By the way, that's an alternate cover of Young Americans. It would look very, very good. But you look at the text, it's fuzzy, it's not precise, it's a scan, it's not the real thing. If you're looking for Who Can I Be Now, the other thing to keep an eye out for is the size of the box. If it doesn't match up with the same size as the other ones, it's not the real deal. Okay, a new career in a new town, Bowie's Berlin period. Many people's favourite. I like all periods of Bowie's work, with the exception of Tonight, which is absolutely unmitigated garbage made by a millionaire who wanted to make a lot of money and had no songs and no inspiration. So, look at the box. Okay, yeah, that looks all right. Let's see what it is. Okay, Low, absolute classic. If you're ever in the habit of reproducing how your face looks on an album sleeve, oh look, very, very realistic. I can't say for definite. The original releases of Low had a sticker with the track listing on the back. The sticker is not on this version. I do not know if that is the same as the official box set, but I do know it is not the same as the official and original album release in 1977. I've got the version with a sticker. Again, here goes Heroes. Looking at the back, the scan is fuzzy, the text is slightly fuzzy. Even if you want to look at it right now, the DBX up there, which is the text which indicates that it's one of the reissues, is slightly fuzzy. The text again here is the orange, so it's been retypeset. The versions that aren't orange generally have been scanned. We have the Heroes EP. I do not know if this version contains the loss of energy version of Heroes. Primarily on the grounds that I've not actually listened to it. I've just ripped it, but since I listened to Heroes approximately 20,000 times before I bought this box set, I haven't felt the need to go back to it. So Stage, here we go. Again, copyright text, very, very small. Inner sleeve is again, it's all scanned, it's not retypeset, so it's fuzzy. Disc is silver. Dead giveaway if that's what you're looking for. Now, also, we're going to get to another couple of things in here. You start to look at those. Again, those have been crammed together quite quickly. They haven't been assembled with care. The people that have been putting them together in the factories don't care if the inside discs are necessarily crinkled. They have no strong opinion about them. Again, if you look at that, although that's probably meaningless, someone's just shut it without thinking about, well, actually, we need to get it to line up. So it's not the type of quality. It wouldn't pass quality control at Optimal Media, GmbH, which is where these discs are allegedly said to have originated from. Here's their 2017 remix of Lodger by Tony Visconti. And When Tony was recording Black Star with David, Tony took some time to remix some of the songs from Lodger, presented about 5 or 6 finished mixes to David, and he was enthusiastic about that, and then it became part of this box set. This is an alternate mix of the album. Again, it's a really interesting variation, but it shouldn't be locked inside a 100 and something pounds box set. It should be available freely to people that don't have hundreds of pounds to spend on David Bowie box sets, and that's the market that these counterfeit box sets are aimed at. I'm going to quickly go through this now. Is that what we have here? Is, have a look. It's not square. It's not. It's, you know, it's been put together, and it's been put together in a rush. Now, I'm just going to quickly take one of the discs out here. Again, it's been retypeset, but if you look on the disc here, it tells you it's been manufactured by Optical Media GmbH, which I don't think it has. Some of the catalogue numbers don't match up with the catalogue numbers that are on the sleeves. Some of the matrix information doesn't match up as well. If you want to be absolutely sure, check the back of the discs. If they're silver, they're not legitimate. If there's typesetting mistakes, if the text is fuzzy, they're not legitimate. If the matrix numbers don't match up on the discs compared to the sides, they're not legitimate releases. That is pretty much as clear as I can make it. Scary Monsters, again, really difficult to tell actually, but this is a scan, because if you look at the text up here, it's not quite as sharp. Recall 3, I believe, has some great tracks on it. It also has, I think, the Australian single version of Breaking Glass, which is, I think, absolutely essential listening. It's also got Under Pressure with Queen, perhaps not so essential to listen to. These box sets are missing some songs which were released during Bowie's lifetime, although not on official Bowie product. So, for example, it's missing David Bowie's Revolutionary song, which is on the soundtrack to Just a Gigolo. It's missing songs like Sweethead that have been on the Ryko disc reissues. If you're buying these box sets and you have the Ryko disc versions, keep them both, because there is unique material on each one, by the way. But I think that's subject to something else that I will do at some point in the future. Again, text in here, it's slightly fuzzy, it's legible, but it's small, and the further you get into the disc, and the smaller it gets, the less chance you've got of reading it. So this is the last one, Loving the Alien, from David's problematic Jamaican pajama years is probably the best way of describing it. So each one of these albums, or each one of these sets, kind of covers a period of his life, and the various incarnations of David Bowie. Quite literally, who can I be now? This is the stadium years. This is the era where he decided he was going to wear, blue pajamas and play saxophone and be almost a passenger sometimes in his releases. Let's Dance, again. Scans, you look at the text on the back, the disc is silver. It's not a great record, is it, Let's Dance? I mean, it's got some really good songs in it, but it's not a great record. Okay, Sirius Moonlight Live. This is the first audio release of a show of this, which is official. It contains one of the B-sides, which was the B-side of Modern Love, which is a live version of Modern Love, but he didn't play it at the show that was filmed and recorded on here. Now, again, what you'll see looking inside is this inner bag here is too big, so I've had to fold it over. When I bought it, the inner bag, when I opened it, was all crinkled. It was bulging because someone had just shoved it in there, and they're just like, I've got to do 100 of these an hour, and I'm going to do that. So there you have it. Tonight, the worst David Bowie record, worse even than perhaps Tin Machine. Although, actually, I've got a secret love for Tin Machine. I might address that at some other point. Here is Dance, or Dance, depending on whether you're posh, or from down south or up north. Bath, exactly. And it's a remix album, which was planned for 1985, that was then not released. This is a reconfigured version of it. It's got a longer track listing. It's got more songs on. It's got remixes that follow in from the period of Never Let Me Down album. Which, if this had come out in 1985, Never Let Me Down hadn't even been recorded then. And as we will see, David Bowie kind of wishes that that album hadn't been recorded in some respects, but it's got some remixes on of songs which clearly don't belong from the period for which this was originally designed. Again, disc is silver, text is fuzzy, just like this copy of Never Let Me Down. This version of Never Let Me Down doesn't contain Too Dizzy. Not necessarily going to tell you whether Too Dizzy is a good song or not, on the grounds that I don't listen to it. I don't think it's particularly good. Here is the 2018 remix of Never Let Me Down, with re-recordings by Reeves, and I think Zachary Alford plays drums on it here on this version. No, he doesn't, but it's one of his later period drummers. Again, if you look at this, plastic bag is too big, disc is silver, text is fuzzy, dead giveaways. Once you see those, you can't unsee them. Here's the Glass Spider live album, presented considerably more acceptably, I think, without the visuals. Johnny Marr was apparently asked to join David Bowie's band when the Smiths were splitting up, and Johnny said, "There is no fucking way that I'm going to be climbing out of a glass spider at Ellen Road while my friends laugh at me." It's a ridiculous thing to look at, but like the 80s definitely sounded better than it looked. Okay, so here is Recall 4. Again, scanned, text is fuzzy, discs are silver, and the book, which goes with Loving the Alien, there's also a insert if you would choose to buy one of 2,000 limited, numbered and signed copies of photographs of David Bowie at £3,000 per copy. Something tells me there's a lot of unsold copies of that in a warehouse somewhere. Again, text in here, fascinating, interesting to see, barely legible. So that gives you a guide through the Counterfeit David Bowie box sets for the 5 years, Who Can I Be Now, A New Career in a New Town, and Loving the Alien. If you are strapped for cash and you don't particularly care, or you have various opinions about it, or you're willing to take the risk, that's absolutely fine with me. You'll get no judgment from me in that respect. But it's not so easy to find these counterfeit sets, and you just need to be aware that you aren't buying official product. I wasn't heartbroken when I opened them and I saw these gaps and changes. I was more just accepting that that was the way it was, and I'd save myself a lot of money. But if you are, those are the things to look out for. If someone tries to sell you one of these, if you see them and they're too cheap or they look too good to be true, those are the telltale signs. Look for silver discs, look for fuzzy text, look for spelling mistakes on the discs, such as everything's all right, or the name David Bowie being replaced by the name Diamond Dogs on the sleeve to the Nassau Coliseum album. And also look for the fact that the Who Can I Be Now box is considerably smaller than some of the other boxes, so it doesn't quite fit snug on the shelf. Look for slight differences in size of the cases, and just generally look for where it doesn't quite look like it would pass the quality control of the estate of David Bowie, because these counterfeit sets certainly didn't. And hopefully I'm going to bring this to a close now. I'm kind of bored of the sound of my own voice. Hopefully you aren't. And I will try and talk about something less niche next time. Thank you, and bye. Hope to see you soon.